It's been a bit since I did my last video. It's not that I haven't been trying. I've been working on my climate change video, and unfortunately, I have so many pieces of information that I kind of want to include in there that tossing certain things out is really tough. Adding certain things in is tough. I end up re-recording segments. I'm doing some of it drunk because I want to do it drunk. So there's a lot of work that's gone in there. It just hasn't produced a finished product yet. But there's been a lot of things that have happened this week, and the most interesting is the Bashar al-Assad chemical weapons attack. Now, chemical weapons attacks are always interesting, not because they're not horrific, but because there are so many sanctions against them, and so many countries that will impose or threaten to impose military action that it seems very foolish. Especially when you consider that Bashar al-Assad was basically told we're going to leave him alone. You know, why would you actively provoke the United States? It seems to be pretty stupid. And because there is that question of why did he do it, you have every single political person off on their own tangent. The libertarians have decided to do what libertarians do best, come up with a giant conspiracy theory about how it's a fucking false flag. Great. The Republicans are saying we need to, kill more people, and the Democrats are acting like spineless fucking weasels. I mean, nothing's changed for them. But I was thinking about this and trying to sit there and figure out what could possibly motivate somebody to do this chemical weapon attack, because it's guaranteed to provoke some level of response. There have been a lot of attempts to provoke and bait Trump. Russia ran the ship down the coastline. China sat there and moved some islands out and moved some missile defense systems out. North Korea's been doing weapons testing. There's been a lot of attempts to kind of provoke a response, and nothing's actually done it yet. But he was so critical of the previous administration's spineless weaseling that you gotta expect him to do something. So when I sit there and I take a look at all these details, I look at what has been attempted by China, I look at what's been attempted by Russia, I look at Bashar al-Assad and Trump's vision, and it just doesn't really add up on face value with the tale that's being told. It's not that I think that there was a false flag, it's just that I think that this attack was not motivated by Bashar al-Assad. I suspect he always has this, hey, I want to use chemical weapons on my people thing going on. But Russia, I think, said, okay, go ahead. And I don't even think Russia acted alone. The fact that North Korea is acting the way it is, I am pretty positive that China is encouraging them at the moment. Because you have these two nations, right? There's only three superpowers in the world. There's Russia, the United States, and China. And everybody else is, a threat or an irritation or whatever the frig it is. But they don't have any actual significant economic power or military power. It's China, Russia, and the United States. We have Europe and their allies. They are a significant contributor to us, but they are still not really a world power. So I think that the reason that China has been egging Korea on is because of the tough talk that Trump has had, not just in the campaign, but outside of it related to China. He has a very strong distaste for their manufacturing practices, their subsidization of their labor, and the actual trade issues there. So I believe the goal of the Chinese president was to kind of force Trump to come to the table with a little bit better appreciation of China. If North Korea is being really crazy and China has the power over them, well, that's a chit that China can have. And no strikes are being carried out, right? Nobody's actually shooting other people. So yes, it's aggressive, violent actions, but it seems to be much more of a PR campaign of how dangerous is North Korea, rather than an actual, we're going to go fucking kick your ass. And this tactic, or this strategy of emphasizing North Korea, I suspect was probably carried over from China to Russia. Because China and Russia actually get along pretty well. They have some very strong trade agreements. They are budding nations, and they are our adversaries both. And I think that Russia took a look at Bashar al-Assad and said, Okay, go ahead and do it. They're kind of getting the benefit of Bashar al-Assad puffing out his chest, but it also gets to test the Trump administration, right? If you go to a chemical weapons attack and the Trump administration responds, that gives you a definitive level at which you will at least get a response. You're not in spineless weasel territory anymore. Very useful and valuable information for Russia. But more importantly, I don't see Bashar al-Assad as being particularly useful for Russia in the long term. So what's the loss if we do respond militarily? And the reason that I say this is there's really not a ton of resources in Syria. It's mostly farmland, a little bit of oil, some other stuff. I mean, Russia uses most of the Middle East as a proxy for us to kind of keep us in check because we operate, we get strength through peace. We get all of these nations stable, their economies grow, we get trading partners, everybody's rich and they're dependent upon the United States. And it's kind of how we keep other countries in line. And Russia benefits from chaos and disruption. They absolutely benefit from maintaining the less stable regime in the Middle East. If we were to go in there and get peace, Russia would have a very hard time in the future. So I believe that when you start looking at the Jordanian and Israeli peace talks, when you start talking about the Palestinian and Israeli peace talks, there is a significant chance that investing in Bashar al-Assad, or Bashar al-Assad, or whatever the hell his name is a losing proposition long-term for Russia. So I don't see him as like a vital piece of the Middle East to them. I see him as if he gets smote, he gets smote, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. Now, Trump responded to this in probably what is the best way he possibly could have. He launched 50, 60-ish missiles and took out their aircraft, he took out their airfield, he took out the tankers. It was a military strike against military targets that wasn't, an assassination of an individual. There are literally zero casualties, but he probably blew up a few million, if not billions of dollars worth of equipment and time and repairs, and disabled a critical piece of military infrastructure. The message is that we will hit whatever base we attack, but what's really interesting in this is he informed the Russians ahead of time. Now, I saw some liberal person say, oh, that's because he's really in Putin's pocket. Bullshit. He sent a very clear message to both Russia and Syria, and it is, I have no beef with you. I have big beef with this motherfucker over here. I'm not asking you to do anything about it. I'm just asking you to stay out of the way. I want you to keep your people protected, but stay out of my way. And in doing so, it sends Russia a clear message. We're going to be strong. We are going to act militarily when we need to. Don't fuck with us. And I think that has led to a significant amount of Russian respect, because that's what China and Russia and most other dictators in the world see as respect. You have to show force. You have to be willing to walk up to that fucking line. The fact that Trump hasn't responded militarily to all of the other incidental provocations, suggests that he is a tit-for-tat strategist. It requires the cost of human life before he'll take action, and that is very reasonable. So I just wanted to offer those thoughts, that I think China is exacerbating North Korea. I think the reason that they've been acting the way they've been acting is literally China is trying to use them as a trade shit. I think that the Bashar al-Assad chemical weapons attack and the resulting strike from us is literally Russia basically not considering Bashar al-Assad to be a valuable ally or asset. And the response that Trump gave not only sat there and allowed us to maintain peaceful relationships rather than starting World War III, but it sent a very clear message to everybody around the world that if you want to be a heinous motherfucking dictator, we're going to put you down like the rabid dog you are.